like anywhere between a half an hour and 3 hours delayed. That's great. What is going on?
I don't know. It's weird.
The formula.
They're supposed to be the ones on time.
I know.
That's crazy.
I know.
I liked your exploded head in the back. I had to zoom in on that.
I know, it's funny. It's like, 'cause, you know, when you send it from your phone, you can do that. But if you're reading it from a desktop, it just looks like gibberish.
Okay,
So,
Yeah.
dress up. You loose? You ready?
I'm ready to go.
Come on, guy.
yes, there's a lot there.
Expecting a lot out of him.
I'm gonna film you. So it's your fault.
Yeah.
There's a lot there.
What's on YouTube?
Well, he's doing the announcement right
Yeah.
now, so.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
How you feeling?
Totally
Hey, can you get me one of
brain
those?
dead. At this
yeah.
point, but
Yeah.
I mean, like at this point, I'm staying. Otherwise,
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. Right. It's been a long day. Where have you been today?
Well, I teach on Thursdays,
Yeah.
so I'm on a 6:30 train, and then I teach 3 classes, 3 90-minute classes, and I had
boy.
like I need a student,
Ready to go?
and I have like a faculty.
Swing it.
meeting,
Don't
so
even
it's-
play no. Don't even
You were in Philadelphia today.
Yeah, my train was late. That's why I just got here. I'm on a 4 o'clock train home, which is supposed to get me in at 6, but it's usually like
Yeah.
it's been like a half an hour late.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Hey there.
Got it. Got it. It's been
Anyway.
a long day. Yeah. Yeah. You were not anywhere near Bronxville. Yeah.
A lot of drama with that bed day.
Yeah. Yeah. What's that?
Yesterday was so much drama
Oh
with
yeah.
that day.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Anyway, how are you?
I'm good.
Just
I'm
sending
good.
us screenshots of my RA. How was downstairs? Good?
Yeah. We covered. We accomplished a lot actually with communication, which we made some headway on. I was happy to see that. We covered. I think a whole bunch of. I mentioned this to Caroline. Something we wanted to cover. She mostly information, nothing technical. It was good. Yeah. Yeah. It's an easy one. It's an easy one.
What is this? Is this a little...
Yeah, it's a gift from Rachel.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
I
I
love
love
it
it.
too.
Yeah, look at that.
I love this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's what I had gotten for all of the staff, faculty.
Oh, I love me some Bronxville apparel.
Those are different. I ordered them separately, so it's very
So we stand out.
to apparel.
Yes. Okay. Good.
This is
I will
great.
bear this. I will bear this proudly. Thank you very much.
Enjoy.
This.
Okay,
We all
so
got Yeah, look at that.
gotta use. I need one of these at home. Reconvening the public session. I'm not going to take much time, except to say I think homecoming week is going well so far. Rain held off yesterday for the bonfire, which is fantastic. Teams have had mixed results, but I think it's still going to be a great week, and I am very excited for the rest of the semester. But Rachel, why don't you take it away? Yeah, okay. Why don't we get a motion to accept the draft minutes of the last meeting?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Rachel, why don't you take it away?
All right, we're fortunate enough to have Matthew Curran here with us this evening as our student representative on the Board of Education, with a new regulation coming down that this is gonna be required. Once again, Bronxville ahead of the game. So why don't you start us off this evening, Matthew?
I'm happy that I'm a trailblazer, but it's fantastic to be back representing the student body in these meetings in the new school year. Not too much has happened in the first couple of weeks, but it kicked off with a warm welcome for the new incoming freshmen through freshman transition and other programs that are meant to integrate them into the high school, introduce them to the new classrooms and the new way of doing things, essentially. With that, the annual activities fair was held on the Thursday to start school, in which all the clubs and different organizations that are affiliated with the school were put up posters in the cafeteria, and students walked around for 30 minutes, an hour, and it was good for the clubs to get their name out there, but also good for the students to understand how important it is to get involved with these clubs early on in the high school and stay involved. All grades had their annual code of conduct meeting with our new principal, Dr. Laverso, and new assistant principal, Mr. Vaglica. in which we were reminded of the rules of the Bronco Guide. And the meat of the story, this Monday kicked off homecoming week with activities and events throughout the week promoting the school spirit and our sports teams. These activities on Monday, there was Blue and Gray Day. Everyone wore blue and gray. On Tuesday was B Day, where the sports teams went into the gym and dressed up in costumes. Last night we had the bonfire. As mentioned, the rain held off and there was Kona ice and pizza, which is always good. And today, varsity jersey switch day. And the week is not over, as you can probably hear over there. A certain former board member is very into his announcing. Tonight is the food truck night with girls varsity soccer playing on Chambers. Tomorrow night is boys varsity soccer, and finally Saturday night is the varsity football team, and we play Pelham at 6 o'clock. And then finally, as a senior, I'd be remiss not to talk about the events regarding the college process. Of course, there could be an entirely separate report, but none of us want that, including myself. But the guidance office has introduced many offerings and opportunities throughout the year, and even before the year, we had a college essay workshop, but there's been supplemental essay workshops that started last week, hosted by our English teachers, and Common App sessions, just many different things to help prepare us for the upcoming college process. That is all. Thank you very much.
What's your essay on? What's your college essay? You gonna tell us?
I'm willing to tell you. It's about how I'm a picky eater.
Okay.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is.
May college admissions find it
Is that-
interesting.
Is that,
Let's hope so.
Let's hope so.
Pete, is that going to get him into UVA?
I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right,
All
thank you.
right, we'll see you tomorrow. So good evening, everybody. I too was going to just speak briefly about homecoming. It's been a wonderful week. Please come out and support all of our student athletes and the PTA, because that apparel sale, second to none, as my credit card will testify. Although our last board meeting was only 2 weeks ago, so much has happened since then. The call to a national hotline of a bomb threat was handled just as we were trained. I do want to take a moment and thank our faculty and staff for handling themselves so professionally and with such care for our students. I also want to thank all of our parents who were patient and trusting as we secured their children's safety. I appreciate all the feedback that I have been receiving since then, with concerns surrounding communication. I want you to know that we have included that in our after-action review, which we conducted first thing Thursday morning with the Chief of Police. And in that after-action review, we reflected upon all aspects of communication and ways to improve communication during emergency situations. And our law enforcement, led by the Chief, was extraordinary. How fortunate we are to have such a strong partnership with them. As a next step, I will be hosting a parent workshop with our Chief of Police, Chris Satrielli, our Director of Security, Vic Prenny, and Alteris, our security firm. This will happen on Monday, September 30th at 6 p.m. The purpose of this workshop will be to share with the community a summary of Wednesday's incident, our after-action review results in terms of what we've learned from that afternoon's events, and to educate our parents on the safety protocols we've been trained in and when we would employ them. I will also leave ample time for a Q&A period. On a similar topic, New York State has now added a notification requirement. So we need to give a week's notice anytime we have a fire drill and a lockdown drill. We need to have 8 fire drills annually and 4 lockdown drills. So expect an email from Vic Prenny tomorrow saying that sometime next week we'll be conducting our first fire drill. Now I would like to invite up Ann Meyer, our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. This is typically the board meeting where we present to you our annual achievement profile.
So this evening, we're going to be going through the results of state tests that our students took in the spring, as well as advanced placement tests and college matriculation. A couple of things before we start that I wanted to note. We'll be going over ELA and math scores for our 3rd through 8th graders, and this past spring we had them all take them on the computer. New York State is going to be moving to computer-based testing solely over the next couple of years, and so we took the opportunity to do that in the spring. Additionally, we're going to talk about the 5th and 8th grade science test results. This is the first year that those tests were aligned to the next generation science standards, so they're very different exams from what our students have taken before. And then I'll just note that following this presentation, tomorrow afternoon we'll be posting all of the score reports for our 3rd through 8th graders in Infinite Campus, and principals will send out information in their weekly emails. So first we're going to take a look at the results from the ELA exam in 3rd through 8th grade. Again, this was our first time that students took this exam on the computer. And I think it's important to note we do a comparison with the same districts every year. Not all of those districts had their students take all of these tests on the computer. Some grades they took on the computer, others they still took on paper. So although we are still giving you the comparison of the high score and the low score of that group, it's not really apples to apples because all of our kids took it on the computer. And you can imagine, you know, elementary students navigating a computer to take a test, scrolling up and down, highlighting text on the computer, and then answering questions. It's an adjustment. And so I wanted to note that our 3rd grade test scores are lower than we would expect, and that is something that immediately jumped out to us. And we've already done quite a bit of work looking into those scores. There's a lot of questions that we ask when we see any of these scores. We look at how those scores are spread across different sections. We look at what students may have been receiving building services or special ed services who received scores that would not be proficient, so 1s and 2s. And we receive data from the state that actually will tell us which questions our students didn't do well on, what those questions were about. We connect that back to the curriculum, and if there's specific areas that are showing up as areas of improvement, we revisit those units. And so we have already actually done all of that around these test results, and we will continue to monitor progress going forward. So I just wanted to point that out.
And before you move on,
Yep.
were there any conclusions from that review of the 3rd grade performance that you can share?
So we do have areas where our students struggled more than others, and those were in more complex comprehension questions. And so we have already traced those back to some units where we would like to incorporate more lessons around that. The other thing that we're not attributing all of this to, but the computer is a very big jump for 3rd graders, both in terms of having to type their answers and also just being familiar with how to manage the testing platform on the computer. So we've already looked at places where we can incorporate it in small ways for them to do some of their work so that when they're preparing for the test, it's not the first time that they're seeing that.
Were you able to identify the schools that also used computers?
I have some of them, but I don't have all of them, mainly because since I'm new in the role, I don't know all of the assistant superintendents, but I'll be going to a meeting next week with many of them, and I'm going to find
curious
out.
if it's a technology competency or if it's something else. Yeah.
I think it's important to note too, the 3rd graders last year were kindergartners during COVID, like
Yes.
the worst part of COVID, where they were masks on and not being able to fully get the same appreciation for the seeing the teacher's mouth move and being separated and whatnot. So there's probably something to do with that, I would imagine, as well.
Definitely. Yep, that's a good point.
I also want to point out that when we looked at the third grade scores and looked across at all 5 sections, the performance of each class was comparable. There wasn't any one class that did better or worse than the other. It was pretty consistent across the board.
Right. And to Eddie's point, these kids were in kindergarten during the pandemic, but at the same time, I do think that we are, that score is relative to this very high performing peer group, we're low. That red line is the low watermark, and we're close to it. So
Correct.
There's something else going on too. It's not just the pandemic. All of those schools face the pandemic too. So something to think about here.
We are definitely digging in the data, and we have
Yeah.
found a number of things, and we're addressing them all simultaneously.
And is
Right.
this just aggregate data that you get back, or do you have data about specific students?
We have every student's performance, and we have actually, what questions they got wrong. So we're actually, this is one test, right? It's important to keep that in mind. It's, one experience for a student. We're tracking their scores on this back to our internal scores to see our internal scores predictive, because that's important information for us, because if they're not, we have an issue with our internal assessments. But if they are, then we know we need to target kids who are underperforming on our assessments in order to better prepare them for these. That's something we're looking at, and then we also give the STAR assessment, and we're looking at what is their performance on that in comparison to how they performed here. Again, just trying to continue to revisit how we assess kids over the course of the year to ensure that we have the capacity to address issues before this test. So all those pieces are being looked at.
And very impressive to see that for most grades, actually 4 through 8, we are at or near the high water mark amongst this, again, very distinguished peer group.
Absolutely. And so if we can just move to the math results, which here you're going to see 3rd through 7th grade, because in 8th grade our students have the opportunity to enroll in Algebra 1. So in this case, these students, again, were all taking the test on the computer. So you can imagine that is a significant adjustment, that they're doing math problems on a scrap piece of paper and having to transfer it. That's a lot for younger students. Just to note that our newly aligned Eureka Math curriculum has a computer-based component to all of the assessments. So that's going to allow our students to have that experience over the course of the year, which I think is going to prepare them well for this. What I've been reminding the elementary school teachers and even the middle school teachers is that preparing students for computer-based testing is not just preparing them for the New York State tests. SATs are now on the computer. ACTs as of January will all be computer-based, and the College Board has actually accelerated their move to computer-based testing for this spring. So these students are preparing for the state test, but they're also preparing for high-stakes tests in high school, which at that point are all basically going to be computer-based. And again, these are excellent results compared to our peer group, which is very strong. Can you go to the next slide? So if we compile all of our ELA data 3 through 8, we actually have the same proficiency rate overall as we did last year, which is 84% proficient in our performance, and you can see it's an improvement over time. And then our math is actually at 89% proficient this year. So again, continues to improve. So as I mentioned before, our 8th graders they have the opportunity to enroll in Algebra 1 now. That's open enrollment. And that open enrollment began in the 21-22 school year. We continue to monitor this closely to ensure that students who are making that choice are being well served by taking Algebra 1 in 8th grade. And as you can see, we had 101 students last year decide to do that, and their average Regents score was an 89. And if you can go to the next slide, you'll, back one, you'll see that the vast majority of them are actually performing at a level 5, which means they scored an 85 or higher on the Regents, which is outstanding. And almost all of our students are at a level 4 or level 5, which means they scored a 75 or higher on the Regents. So this is the new science exam that this year came out based on the next generation science standards. And in fact, the state has not released comparison district data, which may tell you something about how people did on this test. Usually when a lot of districts don't do well, they don't release other districts' data to one another. And so although 72, again, is not something that may be how our students have done in the past, in my communication with other assistant superintendents, that's actually surprisingly a very strong score. I hope to, again, get more information as I go to a meeting next week with regional assistant superintendents. And the 8th grade score is extremely high. The 5th grade test is testing 3rd through 5th grade science content. The 8th grade test is testing 6th through 8th grade. And from the questions that have been released as a former science teacher, the 5th grade questions that I saw reminded me of the high school living environment test. I mean, I asking 5th graders to compare 2 maps to a graph of data and a paragraph of information to answer 2 questions. That's a lot to expect them to do, scrolling up and down on a computer through those images. Again, we have all of the data on not only overall our performance, and they divide it by content area, life sciences, physical sciences, engineering standards, but also we get it by student. So we've already gotten into that data, met with the science teachers, and discussed areas that they might want to revisit based on those results. So now we move on to the high school. We have our New York State Science Regents performance up here. Just as a reminder, all high schoolers have to pass 1 science Regents to graduate, and our students essentially have a choice. The majority of them will take it their junior year, although a small subset will actually take it freshman year, and those students take the living environment exam. But you can see here, most students are taking living environment. That would be our living environment class, Bio 2, AP Bio, and AP Environmental students. And then physics and chem are AP physics and AP chem students, and earth science are earth science too. But our students do extremely well. And then all students are going to need to pass English, US, world history, and math, and we give Algebra 1. And you can see that we have extremely strong results as well on these exams. We administer the English Regents junior year in January. The US History Regents is administered at the end of junior year. World History is at the end of 10th grade, and Algebra 1 is anywhere from 8th through 11th grade in high school. So I did want to take a moment to speak about something that you may have heard about, which is the fact that the state has come out and said that there's a possibility that they may get rid of the Regents exams. And so this is the Blue Ribbon Commission on Graduation Measures that the state has put together. And what they are trying to think through is what should students know and be able to do before they graduate, and how should that be demonstrated? And considering the possibility that the Regents might not be the best measurement of that. This is very exciting for us because we don't particularly feel the Regents is a valuable measure for us. So we're highly engaged in this conversation to make sure if this is going to come to fruition, we're ahead of the curve and ready to go so that we don't need to continue giving Regents. This is the state's portrait of a graduate, and if you take a look at this, you will note that it aligns very closely to the promise, which I think, again, is going to allow us to very easily match the assessments we have in our system to the expectations at the state level as the state moves in this direction. So what the state is considering in place of the regents are things like performance-based assessments. We have a lot of that kind of work. NHD is an example, Bronx River, project-based learning that we've incorporated. Experiential and work-based learning opportunities. We have a whole WISE program, a service learning program. Differentiated and growth-based assessments. We have portfolios that we've developed already. Options to choose from several assessments like AP exams, multiple assessment measures, and again, modifying or dropping the regents. I just wanted to point this out so that you're aware that this is something that we're trying to be part of the conversation, because we feel that we're poised to really make this switch if the state moves in this direction. So for instance, AP exams may allow us to be exempt from Regents exams. And so I just wanted to share this year's AP performance. You can see in May, we had the most number of students taking at least one AP exam. We administered the largest number of exams. Our high school population has not grown. And we have the most number of students scoring at least a 3 on at least one exam. And you can see the percent of our total AP students who scored at least a 3 on one exam is fairly steady given that we've expanded access. So I think this again demonstrates that we have excellent teachers, fantastic dedicated students who are doing college level work, and that the Regents exams are not a measurement of the kind of thing that we're doing in the high school. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about college matriculation.
And sorry, can I ask
yeah.
a question about the APs?
Yep.
Are these years, like, do those correspond to the year in which the test was taken, or is that like?
Yes.
Okay. And so what happened in 2021? That wasn't the year that the exams were like 2 or 3 questions.
It was.
Okay.
2021 was the spring where the exams, a lot were administered at home.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I remember that.
And they were shortened.
Yeah, they were
Yep.
like 3 questions for some of the exams.
Also, 2021, to be honest with you, we had a lot of seniors who were very upset we required them to take APs. They just had a very challenging year.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll just tank exams because they don't need them. And they've already gotten into college.
Yeah.
And that happened to be what happened.
Aggravated.
And I don't blame them.
Yeah.
It was a tough year.
Yes.
But that's why we have such an abnormal result that year.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I remember having these conversations with Roy when he was here about, when I first joined the board and we used to talk about all the potential changes that occur in a public school and how important the New York State mandates are. And clearly they seem to be a lot less latitude for us to do creative work or for students to make choices the younger they are, and then you get more flexibility into the high school, I guess, to make choices with electives. Do you find that we're really being constrained in any way? I always feel like New York State standards, except for the things we have to do, I always feel like we're much higher. I mean, our students are achieving a lot more, and it isn't really, like I was looking at like the proficiencies and these things. You know, for most of our students, this isn't really a measure, right? I mean, this is really just something that we are mandated to demonstrate.
So
I mean, what
are you talking about the 3rd through 8th grade assessments or all?
Assessments throughout, yeah, but clearly even in the younger ages. I mean, where do you find that those mandates are just something we have to pay attention to because New York State expects us to report on them, or do you find them helpful versus the measures that we do on our own?
So I do think the 3 through 8 exams and some of the Regents exams give us valuable information
Okay.
about what we're delivering to students. But like I said, with those 3 through 8 results, they're one test. They're probably a better measure of the system than a measure of a kid. So as a parent, you get those results and you read them and you're either, oh, I'm so proud, or oh, I'm so worried. It is one day for that kid, or a couple of days and moments in time. I think for a kid, the story is told over the course of the year or the course of many years. For our system, it does give us useful data as a system, because we are looking at all of our students and how they're doing. When we get to the high school, some of the Regents exams are content tests. I don't think we're as focused on teaching content, and so those exams don't give us a lot of information. For instance, the chemistry Regents doesn't even line up with the AP Chem course. So our students take it because they have to, but it really doesn't tell us anything about the chem course. The AP Chem test results tell us that. So it does vary course to course. The English Regents is a well-designed test, so we feel that data is valuable. And they've redesigned the US history and the world history to mirror the APs more closely. The science exams are getting redesigned, and we're wondering how much we should do to prepare for that if the state is going to get rid of Regents. So we're kind of weighing those things against one another. So I guess my short answer is it depends.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was a good answer. Thank you.
So we'll take a little bit of time to discuss college matriculation. And I have some information from Aaron, who is sorry that he could not be here tonight. Something came up unexpected, but I have his notes. So I did want to share, looking back to last year in the fall, there was a lot of uncertainty as students approached the college admissions process. The Supreme Court had just ruled in the Students for Fair Admissions case, and we didn't know, and students didn't know, what the impact of that would be. I think we had excellent results from last year's graduating class. They applied to fewer schools. It was a smaller class. Acceptances, however, were up. Early decision is an approach that many of our students take, and it's very successful. So last year we saw 77 students of the 114 who applied to college submit 85 early decision or early decision 2 applications, and 43% of our students matriculated at an ED or an ED2 school. So that continues to be a very strong approach. And I know that Aaron communicates each year with the incoming senior parents with a lot of data. And this data bears in it. It actually helps our students, I think, if they have a strong choice to apply there early. In terms of the regular decision process, the acceptance rate across all applications was also up in this class, and 80% of the class matriculated at one of a top 200 school. So you can see here we do 2 different types of data for you. This is the US News and World Report data. So that is ranking schools, top 25, 26 to 50. It changes slightly every year. They do adjust their metrics slightly, but our top 25 schools include Ivy League schools, Notre Dame, University of Michigan. 36% of the graduating class attended one of those schools. 19% attended schools 26 through 50, which include NYU, Wake Forest, Boston College, University of Maryland. 51 to 100, 25% of our students attended schools like Northeastern, Syracuse. And then other, those are going to include all colleges outside of the United States, and we actually, in this small class, had quite a few students attend school internationally, which is what impacted that number, as well as any colleges that are outside of the top 100. Go to the next. This is the Barron's rating system. Just a little bit different way to put schools in buckets. And so in this case, 69% of our students are attending the most competitive. And other here are all colleges that are uncategorized, including international. We had 7 students go abroad out of 114. We had some students attend music or art schools. Those are all other. If you go to the last slide, you can see how the Barron's numbers compare year to year. We wanted to extend our thanks to the foundation. The foundation funded a 2-day college essay workshop at the end of August. Approximately 60 seniors attended that. We're offering a new mini elective this quarter. Mrs. Diaguardi and Ms. Comiskey are running that, and it is related to supplemental essays and working with students on their those are English teachers working with their students on their supplemental essays. The counseling department will continue to offer unique workshops for how to apply to the University of California system, how to apply internationally, which clearly worked last year, as well as workshops working with kids on different sections of the Common App. So happy to take any questions about that.
I know you're not in Aaron's department, but when you look at these two rankings, and I'm not familiar with Barron's, and I really don't look at U.S. News, but for our students, I mean, what's a more relevant ranking? Because like, kids are looking, parents are looking at it. I mean, or do you not view these as credible for?
I mean, I would say that most schools are rated in a similar bucket between the two. Obviously, the most competitive in Barron's includes quite a few more schools. I think what we always try to tell our students is it's not about what the school is ranked, it's about your fit with the school. So that's more important. I think these rankings do, when you look at the guides, tell you a lot about the schools, which is helpful. Their strengths, etc. And so if you can, as a student, match your interests to that, that's going to end up being the best fit.
Thank you.
And I think recently, if I'm not mistaken, although the name is escaping me, Aaron has introduced a system, a program for families where they put in their choices and you actually get a grade.
College Kickstart.
Kickstart, that's it.
Funded by the foundation.
Funded by the foundation. So that's, you know, I think that was the very first C my daughter received, was filling out Kickstart and based on her choices. I think that's become more relevant for families also.
What's nice about College Kickstart is all of the Bronxville data populates it, and so your grade on your college list is based on how our students have done in applying to those schools, not just anyone. So it is very helpful to see, do you have too many reaches, too many safeties? It kind of gives you a sense of where your list is at.
I'll tell you that.
Pretty accurate.
I just, Sarah's got a senior also. I just used it for the first time the other day. I didn't use it with my daughter who just graduated, but I was so impressed. Because literally, if you put in a list that's wrong, I mean, it tells you basically, you know, be realistic, man. You know, it's like you want to raise that grade, and then it gives you, it's very easy to use. You can select, they break it down by targets, reaches, and likelies, or something like that. And it just is, it's intuitive. I just thought it was really, I was surprised how good it was. So,
Good.
Thank you.
I'm glad.
As a
Thank
senior
you,
parent,
family.
I want to say thank you
Yeah.
to you and to Aaron Kind and the guidance department on how much help that our kids received. Emotional help, parents, and as much help on essays and guidance and keeping them calm. It was a roller coaster, and we greatly appreciate all that the school has done to help our kids get into college. And from what I hear, most kids in the senior class right now are very happy. So we appreciate all that you do to help them get in. So
That's good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
thanks.
Not bad as an assistant superintendent,
Yeah,
right?
look at that. How long has she been in that role, huh?
Right.
Natural.
Okay.
We're moving to, on personnel, that's you.
Yes, that's great. Relatively small agenda this evening, given that we just met recently. You have before you the list of middle school advisors. Those are small groups of students at every grade level that meet with a teacher, which is also their homeroom teacher. So they see them each morning for a short amount of time for announcements, Pledge of Allegiance, and then they have a class together twice a cycle. And so that is a stipended position. And then we have another lunch monitor, teacher aide, and substitute teacher. And then also we have the list of co-curricular advisors for this year. And as you see, that's every grade level advisor in the high school, as well as all of our club advisors. A couple of new clubs, we're trying a new one in the middle school with Joe McCora's support. We're trying an intramural debate club in middle. So we'll see how that goes. We're very excited to launch that. So A through F, please.
I just asked just before you do that, because I'm
Yes.
looking at the list of stipends
Yes.
and teachers. How do you determine the stipends? I mean, because they are at different levels. I mean, how is that determined?
So those were all negotiated.
Oh, okay.
So these
I should've
stipends
known
are
that.
all negotiated and their raises are dictated by the annual percentage increase.
Okay.
A lot has to do with how often they meet.
Yeah, and I was
Whether
wondering if there's
during
some
the
kind
day
of,
or
There's a
after
formula.
school.
okay, some kind of algorithm, something, okay, yeah.
Right, so there's a formula that includes how much experience you have in that position. And then it also includes how often it meets. Does it meet every week, every other week? And then it also includes whether it meets during the school day or in the afternoons or in the evenings. And that formula is applied to each of these.
Okay. Thank you. All right, I get a motion to take these together, a motion to approve the personnel items?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dan, I think we're moving to you, for financial?
Yes, we met remotely with the auditors this morning, as a matter of fact, or this afternoon. You know, they haven't been around that much because COVID has been whipping through central office over the last 2 weeks. So they stayed away. We've been doing a lot of it remotely and it's going very well. As we're closing the books, our surplus from last year is increasing. That's always a great position to be in. I think we're gonna end the year and, you know, obviously with enough of a surplus to cover the allocation of $500,000 from fund balance to offset the tax levy, and then, you know, get our unallocated fund balance up to 4%, and anything beyond that, you know, we'll look to put in our reserve for capital projects so that, you know, we can allocate that when the time comes for our next project that the Facilities Committee will be working on next month. And then current year, August and September results, you know, they're showing expenditures through the summer months were on target. There's no anomalous occurrences. You know, we didn't have any floods or anything, knock on wood, or anything like that. September's always been a rough month for us, so, you know, next 2 weeks, we're watching the weather closely. You know, school districts actually spend comparatively little over the summer months as the costs of most staffing and students don't begin until September. We should get more clarity by November as a lot of these personnel items go through and salaries and special education tuition expenses for outplacements, all that stuff gets encumbered. So I think probably by November I'll have my first real shot of where I think expenditures will be. Revenues, it's going to be another strong year. Non-resident tuition is strong. Interest income, you know, is we probably made close to half our budget over the summer and September. You know, the Fed backed off on the rates yesterday by 50 basis points, so it's not going to be as strong as last year, but you know, it'll definitely exceed our budget. Just have to calculate how much. And you know, so I think we'll be in a decent position this year. It's going to be tight. You know, we negotiated a fair contract with the teachers union, and you know, it was a tight contract for the last go around, so you know, we're playing a little catch up with them, so you know, we're watching that closely as well.
And Dan, just to emphasize for the estimated surplus for the last fiscal year, that's very much an estimate. That's probably going to come down.
Yes, yes. There's that's pre-audit, that surplus. So there's all kinds of adjustments that get made. You know, we write off uncollectible accounts or receivable, you know, things like that. We allocate some revenues to different funds besides the general fund. It's all collected in the general fund and then dispersed, such as interest income and some grants. So that will most likely come down a little bit.
Yeah.
And I have some financial action items.
Yeah.
We have non-resident students for the board to approve for the 24-25 school year. We have 17 paying full tuition students, 5 elementary school, 5 middle school, 9 high school, and 19 children of faculty, with 6 paying the faculty rate as negotiated. And the board has to accept these non-resident students as tuition-paying students. And action item B is an agreement with Colleen O'Sullivan, who is a consultant who helps us with IEP transition consultation services.
Okay.
So if we can take them together.
Okay. I get a motion to approve the non-resident students, children, and faculty, as well as the special education services.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Still with you, Dan. Think about
Facilities.
Yeah.
Facilities Committee, we have a meeting scheduled at October 8th. The architects are going to be there. We're going to continue to develop what we see as the next capital project, which is, you know, infrastructure. You know, it's nothing sexy. We're not adding on anything. It's going to be the bones of the 100-year-old building, and it's going to be expensive bones. You know, when you have to get underneath the brick and the steel, it's you know, the building's going to look the same when we're done with it, but it's not going to be cheap, put it that way. So we're trying to whittle that down as best we can into something that's affordable.
Okay.
And the first 3 weeks of school have gone very well. As I mentioned before, we continue to closely monitor the weather. You know, the fall is our traditional flood danger zone. So, you know, I can't say enough about Mike Lee and his crew. They keep our building dry. Simple as that. And then the first phase of the pond field front landscape renovation went very well over the summer and late spring. We are thrilled with the new sidewalk, and the hedgerow is working as designed to direct a lot of the foot traffic to the walkways. You know, when you combine that with the irrigation system that we have, the front lawn has never looked better.
Finally, it's green. It's fantastic.
And Mike Lee told me today that he's been getting a lot of calls out of the blue from Bronxville residents, patting us on the back for that.
And we give a lot of credit to the PTA.
Yeah, well,
Every call and every comment.
yep.
And the village. A little bit to the village, but
No,
most of
no,
it,
no,
yeah.
no.
I
I
have-
just
I-
happened to be looking at Amy Kraus when I said that.
I have a financial slide and something to say about that. Because, the board wanted to know where we are in our plan. Board wanted to review what we've done thus far and what we're looking to do in the future as far as the plan is concerned. This displayed summary shows that we have completed about 2/3 of the plan. Most importantly, the tough infrastructure parts are done. That sidewalk was a huge hurdle because we couldn't really address much else until we did that, and the trees, which the village helped us out with. Again, we had terrific partners with the PTA and the village, and the board saw fit to allocate some unspent funds from last year to get us this far. You can see what remains can be done in pieces. Those are the areas, the green shading up there. Tree beds around the beech trees, not that expensive. We could probably handle that in our maintenance budget. Front landscaping, trees and shrubs, we don't have to buy them all at once. We can piecemeal them. We're still looking for, any benefactors want to help out with that. We'd be happy to, since phase 1 went so well, maybe people want to help us out and make it look even better, more colorful in the spring. And then the walkways and the bluestone. I think bluestone walkway on one side, I think probably concrete on the other side. There's small enough numbers that we can handle that over a year or two. I think the hard work is done. We just have to bring it home over the next couple of years.
And Dan, do you expect these projected costs to be somewhat static? I mean, let's say we don't get to it for a year or two.
They're not going to vary that much. And, I don't think tree inflation is not like construction inflation. And most of this is materials. And I think, the people we've been working with, they're working with us and want to see this. The contractor we've been working with has been great, Abel Famonti. And, I think he would keep these prices going forward for a while.
All right. Thank you. All right, you have something else there, Dan?
I do have, are we, other action items yet, Kyle? Yes. I have 2 other action items. We have a hockey trip for the merged team from Bronxville, Eastchester, and Tuckahoe to go to Rochester from December 12th to December 15th for a hockey tournament. The details are in the memo. And we also have the adoption of building level emergency response plan, which is required by statute.
Right, and to be clear, that's just a coincidence, right?
Yes.
I mean, it happens, we just had a safety experience here at the school, but it's usually filed in late August, early September.
Yep.
Right, it just so happens. we're
Every year we do
Right,
this
and this year
at this
it's a little
meeting.
delayed coincidentally. Just want to make that clear. This isn't especially because of the event last week.
It's timely,
We have to file that with the state,
every year.
but I mean, the deadline is by October?
Yeah.
October 1st, okay. All right.
Worth noting that the building level emergency plan that you have before you to approve this evening is a confidential one. This is the one where you come into the office and you read it. It's more specific than the district-wide safety plan. It has 4 floor plans included, chain of command, information that we don't want public.
Okay. All right. Could take them separately. Okay, so first, want a motion to approve the school trip, boys hockey trip.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then second, the adoption of the emergency response plan. Motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wow, excellent. You're moving it along. I just want to do maybe a couple committee reports. We had a fantastic strategy curriculum meeting. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, Christina, and maybe Ann could fill in some of the gaps.
Sure, yes. So we heard from a range of faculty. We heard really interesting innovation in the civil discourse space. We also heard about some innovations in the English curriculum in high school. And we heard an update on the rollout of the new math curriculum in the elementary school, and I think it was all very encouraging.
It was fantastic. I mean, I just was, we put all these people in place and we have these initiatives, and just hearing about not just how it's been rolled out, but some of the feedback that we've gotten from teachers, the training they did this summer, thanks to the foundation. Thank you, foundation, for the teachers and how that is integrated through the curriculum and civil discourse. What great timing as we come to the election year. So I thought that was fantastic, and that they have that training in place. And then the math, I mean, after my own heart, that I just think that, goodness, please remind me. Thank you, Ashley Chippa, doing such a great job. I think hopefully the teachers are having that experience as well, because I think at least from where we sit, it looks like there's a lot of real good work being done. Ann, did you want to add anything? I mean, we're running that meeting now.
I think the only other thing that we reviewed was Health 11.
Health,
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
the health curriculum was very interesting for me to hear as an elementary school parent, because there was so much geared toward college preparedness for the 11th graders, which is very important, obviously. So.
Yeah, excellent. I know we transitioned from policy Pete to PTA Pete. Was there any, I know you had a PTA meeting. Were you?
I was in the meeting, and Brad and Dr. Kelly were able to Zoom me in. It was excellent. First executive board meeting for the PTA. Went very well. They introduced everyone. Nothing really to report. PTA socials are going on. We have a lot of new families that moved into the town. They should join the PTA. Just a very good executive meeting.
Excellent. Supposed to say there's still some tickets for sale?
I think there are tickets available for socials. Yeah.
The socials, right. All right, thank you. And Eddie, anything on the foundation? You had a meeting there? Or,
We did, yeah. I got to attend my first Bronxville School Foundation meeting. It was very insightful. I want to express some gratitude from the foundation to the administration for a donation that was made from our administrators to the foundation. And we're looking to have a big year. We're going to get a bunch of young families to pay attention to the foundation. They might not know about it if their kids are still really young, but it's important that they learn about it early on, and the benefits and the gratitude that we have for them. Health and safety, as Rachel said, we've got our workshop, right? We've got a workshop coming up on the 30th of September. So parents can attend and learn more about what took place last week with the scare. Ask any questions that they want to, for any more information they want to learn about. I hope people show up to that. And then for facilities, just one more big thank you to the PTA and the village for their generosity on the beautification project. And we have our first facilities committee meeting in October. We plan to roll up our sleeves and get ready for preparing for the next big project. So.
And after that's done, maybe a couple of facilities committee meetings and the finance committee meeting will get together to try and figure out how to pay for it.
There you go.
And an audit committee will also be meeting probably within the next month or so, because we'll have our targeted audit for technology, and also our draft audit for our independent audit should be ready by then. I'm hoping to tackle them both in one Zoom meeting.
Okay, fantastic. All right. We have 2 strategic planning sessions coming up in October. First one's on October 17th. Sorry, I'm reading about the next board meeting's the 17th. Strategic planning's the 7th. And Then we have, well, that next is just this hearing on the safety plan, so it's the same. All right, anyway, we're now ready for the public comment. So please remember, anyone has a comment, whether it's online or from our esteemed audience, please identify yourself and you're welcome to speak. Would you like to say something, Amy?
Hi, I'm Amy Krause. I have two graduates and a ninth grade son. And I just wanted to say thank you to the board and to the administration and to the teachers and staff for how you handled the bomb threat last week. My son said that everything was very smooth and calm in his classroom and there was no anxiety. And I, as a parent, just appreciate how it was handled and I'm very grateful.
I've got a public comment too. The
Thank
class
you,
of
Amy.
1999 will be celebrating their 25-year anniversary, homecoming this weekend, reunion, sorry. So if town's a little extra loud on Saturday, that's why.
Understood. Eddie Lennon, our only alumnus from the school. Thank you, Amy, for your comment. Really much appreciated. And I know that was, you said, we're working on even making it even better experience, not just for students, but for parents as well, who I knew could be quite anxiety-ridden. So thank you for saying that. And I think still the job that Rachel and the leadership team did was really to be commended. Connie, I don't know if there's anyone else online? No? Okay. All right. You get a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Big apple.
I graduated college in '99. It's a legendary.
Exactly.
There's so many songs.
Keeping it tight. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've heard rumors.